Hey, what's up guys? This is Gus from Everything Is Now, and today I'm going to talk about how we produced, recorded, mixed, and mastered Boys Don't Cry by Anita. This is our metal version of it, or rock version of it, and if you haven't checked that out, that will be linked right here. So I'm responsible for bass, guitars, synth, and overall mix and master of the song. The drummer, Gabriel, helps me produce it, like arrange it, and obviously records the drums. So together we kind of do the production part, and they have a home studio. So Gabriel and Raquel are a couple, me and Gabi are another couple, and we both have home studios, so we record everything. Usually we do it separate, so Gabriel and Raquel, they record the drums and Raquel's vocals, and I record all the guitars and synths and Gabi's vocals here in this home studio. So welcome. Some of you might be wondering, but wait, like, did you do this while recording the video? Actually, no. We do all the process of recording the song, and when the song is like done, we send it off to Spotify and Apple Music and whatever, and then while that's getting ready to hit the platforms, we record the video like a music video you would see on MTV or something. That's why everybody looks great, and hair and makeup is awesome, and everything's perfect. So what I want to do today is show you the Logic Pro session and show you what went on in this production, so you can kind of have a glimpse at how chaotic it can get when we're recording a song and doing it in a very professional way. So let's jump into the computer and I'll show you what's going on. As you can see, this is our Logic Pro session. We got almost 60 tracks going on right here. It's all color coded, so I'm gonna go down starting at the top with the drums. How did we record these drums? So usually I make a demo and I send it over to Gabriel, and he'll make adjustments to the drums, and we'll send demos back and forth. And when we're like ready to record, I just send him whatever demo is like the official demo, and he will get his electronic drum kit. I don't know what model it is, it's a Roland kit, and he will record it through a superior drummer with whatever kit sounds better for that particular song. So he'll record that on MIDI, do whatever edits he has to do, and export that in audio files. So what I have here, all these green tracks, are all the superior drummer files that he sent me so that I could mix the drums. As you can see, I'm not using everything, so from this down to here I just muted. It was unnecessary, so I use whatever makes the song sound better. If it doesn't make the song sound better, I get it out of the way. Let's check it out right here. First off, we have the bus processing. So every piece of the kit goes through drum group or the drum folder, and we have some plugins here that affect the sound of the drums as a whole. So let me just go through that first. First of all, we have a clipper. So this is just to take the top off, the spikes off, mainly the kick and the snare. So you can see it, just whatever peeks through here is kind of cut off, and that helps me not have to limit, not have to compress as much, so I get a bit of a cleaner sound. Second plugin here is the Parallel Aggressor by Baby Audio, which is a great company. All these plugins will be linked below. If you buy any of the Waves plugin that I show you, I actually have a coupon code for any purchase over 50 bucks. And if you use any of the links for the Waves plugins, you can buy any Waves plugin from the site. I will get a little tiny slice of that, so that will help out the band and help out this channel. So if you're interested, check out the links below. So anyway, this is the Parallel Aggressor by Baby Audio. What we have here is the dry level, so this is just a regular drum signal. Then we have the spank level, which just brings out the attack of everything, so everything gets a little sharper. And the heat level is kind of the opposite. It brings out the body of everything. So basically this is like a really snappy compressor right here, and some grit and distortion right here. So you just kind of find your balance right here. So I really use this to make the kick drum spank a lot harder, and the heat actually helps the snare drum, like the body of the snare drum, sound better. So that's a great plugin. Then we have just a bit of EQ, bring out the top end and the low end. Sound a little more pro. And we got the Black Box by Brainworks. This is just a bit of crispiness and a bit of saturation. It's similar to what the heat does in the Parallel Aggressor, but Just wanted a bit more, and I really liked the black box, and I had just got it, so I was just testing it out and everything. So it is what it is. That's the drum group. So let's talk about the individual tracks. You can see that there's not a lot of processing, but we do have kick drum, dynamic mic, and the inside of the kick drum, which I'm just smacking the hell out of it with 1176 by Waves. So this is one of the plugins that if you buy, it will help out the channel. So I'm just beefing it up with the 1176, a little more smack, and since I'm compressing it a lot, get a bit of oomph. Then we have the condenser mic, which is inside the kick drum as well. This is kind of a weird mic. I never used a condenser inside the kick drum, so there's a bit of EQ, and I'm really clipping it. Just something different that I can blend in, and it sounds really smacky. Then we have the kick sub, which is just what the name says. It's just a sub frequency. Just cut out the high end just in case. If you're listening on your cell phone or your computer, tablet, whatever, you probably won't hear this. You'll need headphones or good studio monitors because it's really low. And then I actually put a gate on it, so I didn't want the sustain and the release to be too long. So I just cut it a little bit shorter because there are some parts where there's a lot of kick drums going on. So I wanted to not have it get muddy and, you know. So it's just a shorter sub kick drum. Well, that's enough for kick drums. We got snare drums right here. Top and bottom snare mic. Top mic on its own sounded kind of weird, kind of thin. So first thing I did was add an EQ with a bit more of the fundamental. Then an 1176. If you can't tell by now, I love 1176s, and you will see this through the whole project. Then we got the black box. And last but certainly not least, the BX console Focusrite by Brainworks also. And this is a bit more compression and a lot of EQ, so this sounds really different with and without. So without, with. The main difference here is this low mid frequency right here, around 150, just a big bump right there, and 3K, the high shelf, I just took it a bit out, so a bit of the sizzle out and a bit more thump and a bit of compression also. So you're probably like, the smack is gone. That's no worries, because we got the snare bottom, which has a very weird EQ. And also a black box right here. As I said before, I had just bought this plugin and I was using it everywhere, so it is what it is. So that helps bring the smack back. Let me just turn off the sends. And let me turn them back on. So this send to bus 10, that is my snare verb right here. So this is the old school reverb. This is a free plugin. It's pretty great actually. This is a reverb. So that's just getting the snares. This is the kick and snare. That's the basis of a good drum tone, so that's great. Then we got, let me skip the toms for now. We have the overhead. So this is pretty cool. The Superior Drummer plugin has a bunch of different overheads. Overhead drummer, which is probably like the behind the shoulder or something. Overhead stereo, probably just a regular AB set. An overhead tube is probably a tube condenser. And I just blended them together to get whatever sound I wanted. So it's basically a cymbal kind of overhead thing. I don't really use it for the kick and the snare because I really got some cool tones using the close mics, so this is more of a cymbal kind of thing. And then there's this under kit, which is just a weird fucked up mic with a lot of distortion. That's just the way it came from Superior Drummers, so why not? Let's use it. Just beefens up the kit a bit more. So if we put all that together without the toms, this is what it sounds like. then we got the close mic for the hi-hat. Just does what it says in the tin. Okay, so I guess from there we go on to the ambient tracks. This is like an ambient close, an ambient far, and an ambient booth. So what happened here is, I'm not sure if it was the way that Gabriel configured his Superior drummer, but the ambient close is basically like a cymbal ambient and a snare. So yeah, of course I use that. And then we have the ambient far, which is kind of a thicker ambient, which is like more kick drum and the toms. And the snare too. And then we have the ambient booth, which you can probably see is on mute for the whole track. But here at the end we have a China cymbal, and it was just not in any of the other tracks. It was just in this amp booth track, so I brought that up. From the kick in dynamic 2 all the way down here, I did not use any of these. Let me just put that in gray right there. So I skipped over the toms. The overheads already have a lot of toms in them. It already sounds good. But obviously we have to thicken that up a bit, so I really just put these up. There's no EQ, no compression, no nothing on them, and they sound great. And that's it for the drums, so let's go to the next instrument, which is the bass, which I just recorded straight into my interface, which is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, sorry. If I bypass all the plugin, this is what it sounds like. So the core of the sound is actually the Bass Overdrive plugin by TSE Audio, which is a free plugin. It's a great free plugin. And yeah, that just transforms the sound into something amazing. It's basically an emulation of the Sansamp Bass Overdrive. It's a pedal, it's not an amp, but it sounds great. So of course that sounds great, but I wanted to even it out, make it a bit more even. So I put a Loud Max, which is a limiter, also a free limiter. I have a bunch of free plugins that are amazing. You should check them out for sure. This just really evens it out. And I'm really hitting this limiter because it's pretty clean, so it sounds great. And at this point, I'm like, dude, that sounds way too spiky. So this weird EQ comes in. So this EQ sounds kind of like trash, just listening to it like right now. But in the context of the mix, this made a lot of sense. This huge notch right here is to get rid of the flabbiness and just scratchiness on top and get it a bit more low and a bit less mids. So that's what it's doing right there, just to fit better in the mix. And of course, another plugin that's before the Bass Overdrive, an 1176, because I freaking love it. And this is adding the attack. So we get a lot of attack on these quick notes played in the beginning, this really stabby kind of rhythm. So that takes us to the guitars, the electric guitars, which I also just plugged in here. And for the amps, I'm using another free plugin, which is great, which is Amped Roots. Just a basic, great 5150 clone. It's made by Fluff, the YouTuber, you probably know. And MO Sound Lab, which is just a great all-around guitar emulation, pedals and amps and stuff company. So yeah, just basic tweaks using the built-in IR, which sounds great. It's probably like a Mesa Boogie oversized or whatever Fluff likes to use. And we have a noise gate and a tube screamer style pedal. So you can see that's basically all that I'm using for the rhythm for the guitars. And an EQ. Again, this EQ is just to make the guitars sit better in the mix, because if I don't use it, it kind of sounds better. And if I turn it on, it kind of messes it up a bit, but in the mix it sounds better. It is what it is. One thing that I did do is there's some automation going on here. Oh, let me talk about the drum automation. Yeah, I have the spank on the parallel aggressor. This guy right here that brings up the snap in the drums. That's also automated. So the first verse, it doesn't really do anything. But from the first chorus on, it really smacks. Because we needed that to cut through the whole instrumental. So that's what's going on there. I was talking about the automation on the guitars. As you can see, there's volume automation on the group. So guitars go up and down in volume to suit the arrangement of the song. And there's also this overdrive pedal from the Roots plugin. This little guy right here. I use it just on the verses and not on the chorus because the chorus are just open chords. And I want it to really ring out and be a bit more natural. In the verses, I wanted it to be like artificially choppy, like Gent and that kind of metal. So the tube screamer is on for the verse and off for the chorus. Then we have this pedal board guy, which only comes on at the end. That's because, as a true Gent fan, we go down to double drop D. So we're playing in drop D for the whole song. But the last chorus goes down to double drop D, which means it goes an octave down. Yeah, I only have a 6 string, so we used an octave. This pedal board right here is an octave, and just because we lost a bit of the high end when we placed this octave right here, I put a high drive, which is just a treble booster, before it, so it brings it back. This is what that sounds like. So yeah, those are the guitars. Oh yeah, there's one little trick right here. This is unfortunately, I printed this, so I can't show you the process behind it. But basically, I just played a note, used the whammy to octave up, and just chopped it up a bit. So it sounds like this. It's a note, whammy, chops. That's it. But in the context of the song, it sounds really cool. That's it. That happens twice. Sounds great. Let's move on. So then we got synths. So here I have my synth group, that's just for the intro of the song. That's all that's happening right there. It's a retro synth, which is the Logic synth, which I really love. And a Magic Switch by Baby Audio, another free plugin, which I really love. It's just like a Juno chorus. Basically, any synth that you have, you put this on, it sounds like it's a Juno synth. So that's what this sounds like. Actually, that high end that you hear coming in is actually automated. So I put this EQ right here. If I turn that off, that's just the retro synth, and without the Magic Switch, so that's just the retro synth with nothing. Magic Switch now. Makes it sound more like a Juno, and then we got the EQ, which just brings it all together. And then let me turn that EQ off again. We have the second layer of synth, which is just a long note with Alchemy. Just a random preset on Alchemy. Bright, punchy synth. That also has a Magic Switch on it, which sounds amazing. And then we got the EQ. We put that together. And then add a riser. And that's the intro. Then we have this 808 track, which is just for the end, just to smack the listener in the face. I use it twice here, so it's just a really low octave synth with a glide, so it glides down one octave. Like if you were using a whammy on a guitar, that would be pretty much what happens. Again, if you're listening with your cell phone or your laptop or your iPad, you're not going to hear these frequencies, but if you're on headphones, you'll see what I mean. So that's just some really low tracks. Again, that's an Alchemy plugin, just a sine wave. It's really clean. Then a black box to excite it a bit, then an R bass to make it a little better, a little bit easier to hear on small speakers, and then an EQ just to make sure we're really getting the fundamentals a lot more than the harmonics. And in context, that really makes this last drop hit even harder.
Who says boys don't cry? Who says they don't cry? Who says?
So that's great. And then we move on to vocals. So as I said, Gabriel and Raquel have their own home studio. So Raquel's vocals were recorded at their home studio and Gabi's vocals were recorded here. The secret here, to be completely honest, is have a good singer, edit it well. I mean, like time editing and pitch editing. Make sure it doesn't sound robotic as well. Don't make it absolutely perfect. And arrangement is really important when it comes to vocals. So as you can see, we have a bunch of vocal tracks for like a part that's just one line. So the chorus, as you can see, we triple tracked it. So we have a center, a left, and a right for each singer. So we have 6 tracks in the chorus. That's the same thing for like random doubles or words that we just add in the middle just to thicken it up. We're just not triple tracking the verses. So in this case, the verse is a lot more solo. We don't want it to sound too huge. So we're just using a single track for the verse. So as far as plugins go, they recorded directly on a Focusrite. I think it's the 2i2 that they have. Same pre's as my 18i20. It's a great little interface. They do not go through any outboard gear. So this is basically my vocal outboard gear preset. Not really a preset, but this is my go-to recording better vocals. So for all of these tracks that they sent me, I have an EQ, just taking out the rumble that goes on like under 200 because it's a female voice. We don't have anything going on under 200. Just cut that out. And in 1176, as you probably guessed, and this is kind of my go-to for female vocals, the attack like medium fast and the release like really fast, 4-to-1, usually hitting around -10 gain reduction. So this is what it sounds like.
Sometimes I call you when I can't sleep. Now you keep asking me what that means.
And so all of these tracks have exact same processing. The only difference is panning, and then they all go to her specific group, vocal group, and that's where I add a bit more processing. Usually I just do it in the groups. If it's something that has to be individual, I'll just do it individually, but I try to just keep the individual tracks that basic how I would record it if I had analog gear, and then I'll spice it up in the group. In this case, I'm using the de-esser on the group. Sometimes that doesn't work very well. Sometimes I have to do it track by track. So that's just a basic de-esser. That goes into the C4, which is a multi-band compressor by Waves, which is amazing. And this kind of just pulls it into where I want it to sit and how I want it to flow in the song. So the low part usually takes care of like pops and rumbles and whatnot. The mid part usually takes care of like the timbre that might change from one recording to the next one. Like if I recorded a vocal comp that has a bit of change in it, this usually helps even that out. This high mid part usually gets rid of spiky stuff, like stuff that kind of sounds weird to our ears. It kind of helps that sit better. And the high highs are basically just another de-esser. This is what that looks like on the C4.
Sometimes I call you when I can't sleep alone.
Basically another layer of compression, but kind of chill compression, not too hard. And then that goes into the EQ, just getting a bit less of the body and a bit more sizzle. Just felt like that was needed. And yeah, that's Raquel's vocals. That is going through bus 11, which is our vocal verb, which is kind of weird vocal verb, if you ask me. This is Silver Verb, which is just a native Logic plugin, and it's a huge reverb. Really long, and this is something that I got from Oak Felder, the guy that produces Demi Lovato and a bunch of great singers, and it's kind of the sound of pop vocals. You just get really long reverb and put it relatively low in the mix. And in this case, I used an EQ just to carve out that muddy frequencies. And it sounds great. I'm using the same vocal reverb for both of the singers. So that's Raquel's part. This is Gabi's part. Also the same thing for arrangements. single track for the verse, triple track for chorus, and the accents and doubles and whatnot are also triple tracked. In her case, I'm using the exact same vocal go-to preset, and in this case I'm using a delay right here. It's a ping pong delay. This is the H delay by Waves, which is amazing. And yeah, it's just something that's in the original song and we wanted to replicate here, which is this.
Ooh, baby, baby, you've been talking tough, cause your boys can't get enough when the girls don't need your love. Who says boys don't cry?
So yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that's different right there. Then in the group, we also have a de-esser, we also have a C4, which is basically doing the same thing because I want to pull both of the vocals kind of in the same direction so they gel well together. That sounds great. I love this plugin for that kind of thing. Like I have two different vocalists recorded on two different mics in two different rooms. This kind of helps it kind of bring both of those sounds closer to each other and sound a bit more similar. And then we have the EQ, which is basically the same thing, just I have a different cut right here at 1K. I was using the Warm Audio WA87 on her vocals, and that's kind of a frequency that has a bit much, and I usually notch that a little bit out just to make it sound a little better. And so they're very, very similar in that case. And then we have a tiny little choir here, which is something that I added when I was arranging the song. And yeah, this is, again, the same vocal preset. It's not really a preset, but like the same vocal chain is what I should say. Then we have this Space Designer, which with the large and bright reverb, which is stock from Logic Pro, and it just sounds huge. And I really like it in context. Let's play vocals with this tiny little choir.
I know, it drives you crazy, try to tame me, but nobody's taking control over me.
So both of these singers are really good at vocal harmonies. Gabi is a fantastic choir singer, and we had to do it. There's also this part right here.
In your feelings, I can feel you're in your feelings, you won't admit it, but I...
So there's a lot of little vocal things that sound great. As far as automation goes, we just have a little bit of automation on Gabi's verse vocals, just to even it out a little bit. Same thing for Raquel right here at the end. We even that out, and there's a little bit of panning also going on. So at the final verse, we have both of them singing the same verse. So I just panned it out. Gabi a little bit to the right and Raquel a little bit to the left. Open a little bit more space up in the middle. Then we have the mix bus, or the master bus. We have a little bit of automation here just to bring the volume up on the chorus. So actually what I did is I brought the volume down on the verses. So when it hits the chorus, I just go up to where it should be and it sounds huge. And let's take a look at the mix bus processing here. So this is kind of huge because I'm doing two things in one. This is the mix bus and also the mastering chain. So the three first plugins here are my usual mix bus. We have the SSL going on right here. This is the G bus, master compressor.
I thought that we were just having fun.
Doing a little bit more than what I usually do. Usually I just tickle the needle a little bit, but this sounded quite good. This is just gluing the instruments together, making it sound more like a song and less like random instruments. Then we have this tape machine, which is by Black Rooster Audio, the Magnetite tape machine, which is great, and it's doing kind of the same thing. It's not compressing, but it's adding a little bit of saturation to help glue the instruments together as well, so it's kind of a step in the same direction. And lastly, on the mix bus side of things, we have a Pultec with a little bit of boost in the high end.
I can feel you're in your feelings, you
just to brighten the mix a bit more, make it a little more polished. So from the next plugin on, we're dealing with mastering. So usually when I'm mastering something, I'll use my ears, of course, and I'll use the Metric AB by Adapter Audio, and it helps me compare my mix to other mixes and my master to other masters. Then we can see the frequency spectrum, the correlation, the stereo image, the dynamics, the loudness. And that really helps me like make informed decisions on what I'm doing in the mastering. So that helps me out with mastering. And for this song, this is the mastering chain. First of all, we have this mid-side EQ. For the most part, the mid and the side are doing the same thing. So we have a little bit of cut at 150 and a little bit of boost at 9K. But on the mid side, we have the same cut and boost, and an additional boost at 2K. I'm guessing I did this to bring the guitars out a bit more in the sides, probably something like that. And here I have a mono maker, so everything that's under 136 is mono. So if it was spreading to the sides, that just brings it in. So we have the bass drum and we have the bass guitar all in the center of the image. So that's what's going on for EQ. Then we have the BSA clipper again. This time it's just tickling the clipper. I do this so that I don't have to limit as much. If I take like the top spikes off of the kick drum and the snare drum, I don't have to push the limiter too hard with the clipper compared to a limiter. If you take the spikes off with the clipper, it just sounds basically the same. If you take the spikes off with the limiter, it's actually lowering the song. So all the other instruments that are not on that spike actually dip down. So I usually use the clipper first to get those top peaks without affecting the rest. And then I'll use the limiter to kind of affect the whole song. So that's what's going on right there. Then we got a black box again, because I was using it a lot and I loved it. And it's kind of doing some clipping, but it's soft clipping, so it's a bit different, while also adding a bit more excitement to the track. That sounds great, really subtle. Then we have an EQ just taking off the subs. Basically, I really don't need anything below 40, to be honest, but below 30, I really don't need anything. And to top it off, I'm using the IZOTOPE Ozone Elements, but I'm just using it for the limiter because it sounds great. And yeah, I'm hitting the limiter here, probably like around 2 or 3 dB. And yeah, that's it. That's how I bring the volume up at the last phase. So if I take this out, that's where the volume is, limiting it and bringing it up. That's the song. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Remember to check out our Patreon account if you want to help this band survive and if you want some awesome perks. A huge thank you to our patrons for helping us out. Follow us on Instagram too, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And I'll see you in the next video.